Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Gibson. I'm here with Dan Smith, the founder and CEO of Recipe 33, last year's Trailmix competition pitch winner. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Amanda.
How are you doing?
Excellent. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk through the product and some of the lessons learned from last year and have you share some of the wisdom that you've gained along this journey with everybody that's watching.
Perfect. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I know last year you did a whole pitch, which everybody has access to go watch. It's still up on the YouTube channel, but tell me a little bit about, for everybody that doesn't go back and watch right away or doesn't know anything about Recipe 33, tell me a little bit more about the product itself.
So this was actually my school project, but what I do is I take almonds, I take fresh ingredients, and I infuse the flavors inside the nuts. So this one is smoky serrano, but we start with fresh serrano peppers, hickory smoked sea salt. And the same way you would marinate a piece of meat or a piece of tofu, we just do it with almonds. So you create a solution, let the almonds soak, and then we've got a proprietary drying process that pulls the moisture out. You get none of the junk on your hands.
Yeah, and they're delicious. I've tried all but one flavor, I think now, and I've learned that apparently I am your target market. So I'm very impressed with the amount of flavor that's packed into one little almond.
That's great. Yep, you're definitely my target audience.
Yeah. So last year you were in a different phase of the business, as happens in a startup journey. Everything moves very, very quickly. Tell me a little bit more about what winning the pitch competition allowed you to do and some of the steps that you've taken since then.
So with COVID, I kind of did a hard pivot from just being in the store, lots of demos, to fighting to stay alive. But I really kind of repositioned to, I signed up for every pitch event I could get into, specifically in the Pacific Northwest. But as I was going through due diligence with a potential investor, I had a couple of really nice hits. The Boise Trailmix program was definitely one that, not only getting distribution at Albertsons, a $20,000 check, but right in the middle of having somebody review your financials, it's kind of like, okay, they already thought it was a good idea. This was just even more validation that to win an event like this. So, but that has allowed me to secure that seed round funding and really start to expand up and down more than just a Pacific Northwest brand, but to validate and show that we could operate in the Bay Area and in the LA market. So that's really where we've been focused.
That's fantastic. That is awesome. You also shared with me early on that you did 500 demos over the course of 2 years. So this would have been before the pitch competition, right?
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, yes. To clarify, that's a good point of clarification. So from 2018 to 2020, when COVID hit, and you had a very specific approach. Obviously, demos help you get sales, but you had a very specific goal in doing those demos. It sounds like. Tell me a little bit more about what you learned through that and why you specifically did 500 demos.
Yeah. So in my past life, I've worked on some pretty big brands with M&M Mars and Ghirardelli chocolate, and they have the money to do consumer research and validation and really making sure that exactly who your consumer is and how you're speaking to them. So I had good ideas of who she was and the way I wanted to communicate. But those demos really allowed us to, refine the call outs on our packaging. The branding has pretty much stayed the same, but there's just been small little tweaks to packaging that doing those demos, getting that live feedback on, is this too salty? Is this, what are they looking for when they flip over the package, and making sure those things are called out immediately. And not going down a rabbit hole of buying, 100,000 packages of something, really being able to be flexible and to be able to take that information that we were getting from the demo data. And really what we were looking at is, was it a female, male, family, really trying to dial in. And then we try to bracket age as well. So we understand, is it a younger consumer that has more family, or is it an older demographic that, they're entertaining friends? So really trying to understand that, and doing those demos really allowed us to kind of ask those questions and to really build out, what that profile and who she really is that buys our product.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest assumptions that you went into that process having, or did you have any? Was it all a test and learn, or did you have a couple really big assumptions that you feel, or myths that you feel like were busted throughout that process?
I really thought my demographic would be very close to what I was doing when I was at Ghirardelli. And I don't think I was far off from that. Maybe a little more fitness or health conscious than the chocolate consumer. But I really thought I had an image of, I always say that there was my aunt, and she would do wine and cheese and pairing and, bunko and book club and different things like that. So she would buy that product to entertain her friends, and then I have the health and fitness and maybe a vegan that fell into one category. That first thing they're going to do is go to the back of the package, and they want to see what the ingredient statement is, and no additives and clean ingredients. So those were really my two big ones. And we weren't off on that. It's more of like having the money to kind of go in and to really subdivide and go down even further with the consumer. I've really tried to keep it at those two and just try to drive trial. Since COVID, haven't been able to do those demos. And then we launched a garlic dill. So I'm just now starting to get back into stores and track some of the feedback on that product. But we found some alternative channels. So like gift boxes, some of these snack boxes and trials. And then we got onto Delta Airlines that has really allowed us to get our product in front of a lot of people and drive that trial. So you experience the product, you experience the no mess on your hands. So we've had to be a little more creative without demos. So the demo part was not scalable, at least with me doing the demos. There's only one place, so many places Dan Smith can be at one time, where if getting on the airplanes and getting into these snack boxes allows me to really expand the reach of Recipe 33.
Yeah, but it sounds like it provided some really key learning for you in those early phases and really fed a lot of what you decided to put on your package as well. That's an area that I see some people immediately go cheap, which might work depending on what category you're in. But tell me a little bit more about some of the things that you learned, and very specifically what you decided to include on the package, or what type of packaging you decided to have.
So initially we launched with clean body, clean hands. And it's cute. And we registered it. We tried to protect it. And it didn't resonate so we were asking customers, does that make sense to you? Well, after the demo, that totally made sense. But when you just put it on the shelf in an 8-foot section and you look at our product, it didn't really make sense. So we did a pivot to no mess, just flavor. So, it's very simple. That made a big difference, but it's one of those small little call outs at the bottom of the package it's really clear that when you're standing in front of that section and you've got that 2 seconds to get somebody, how do you communicate that, it's usually people pick it up for the ingredients on the front, that that flavor combination, or they flipped over the back of the package. If you flip over the back of the package, I know I'm halfway home. But it was really kind of watching the way people shop the section, getting interaction with them, and getting that feedback that allowed us to, do small production runs or small packaging runs, but to be able to take that feedback over those 2 years and really kind of get our packaging to where it is today.
That is amazing how many little learnings have happened over such a really relatively short period of time, and quickly you've been able to pivot. And then you have other people that are involved in this process as well. And then you come with a great background yourself in terms of understanding the category, understanding the buying process. But tell me a little bit more about the people that are involved in the company, and then also the specific skill sets that have helped this all come together.
Sure. So this was actually my MBA project. So I went back to the University of Washington, was working on my MBA, and late night study groups, somebody would always bring snacks. You either have the Cheeto fingers and you're trying to write the 20-page paper, or you read the ingredients and it was just loaded with ingredients. I would always say, why? So that's when I kind of had the idea. I had to do a business plan to graduate. So I just started dabbling. In my background, I really like to barbecue. So it's like, you brine a turkey, you marinate a steak. Why couldn't you do this with almonds? So that's kind of what started it. And then I had a study group in my final year, and we had to do a business plan to graduate. So Giuliano, Microsoft marketer, incredible background, attention to detail. He's that person that when they take their picture, you ask them if they could forward it to you so you could post it on your Instagram account. So just that eye for the design and then attention to detail that I may not always have. And then Mutu, so Giuliano and Mutu were the first two to join me from the business group. And Mutu is a tech guy, tech whiz. So he took, when we were talking about the demo data, I was telling him what I wanted to collect and how I needed to use it when I meet with buyers, where I can explain who my customer is and really be able to show that with graphs and make it a pretty presentation. So Mutu goes, oh, that's easy. We can do an app and blah, blah, blah. And it'll go from here to here. And it'll just roll up all the data. So definitely skill sets that I don't have. Building out our website, getting us onto Amazon, all those things are like, 15 minutes later, they're done. And I probably would have spent months researching, probably hiring a third party. So those were two. That's part of the recipe 33, is there were three of us initially. And then I would say about 6 months into it, we're starting to do models and forecasting. And in our second year study group, Jen, and Jen is based in Boise. And that's kind of what brought all of us together. My team and I, we were all working on these models all week long. And it was, man, it'd be really nice if we had somebody that actually did this for a living. And wasn't just a couple of classes that we took in our MBA program. And Jen happened to be in town and we grabbed drinks with her that night. And she, absolutely has been supportive and jumped on board with us. But she is our CFO and kind of keeps us in line, definitely keeps me in line with expenses and staying on top of the financials. But basically the four of us started Recipe 33. So they have stepped further back in the business since we did the seed round. They all have really good careers. May not have made sense to bail out and start a nut company. For me, I've always been in the consumer CPG industry. For me, as I was just looking for an opportunity to kind of build my own brand and to do something that where I thought there was a gap in the market.
Yeah, it sounds like a really well-rounded group of people, and like everybody's been able to come in kind of at the right time and the right place to make it happen. Are there times where you've had to be really creative and stretch your resources? I know the answer is yes. When you're a startup, you're stretching your resources. Yeah. But are there times where you've had to be creative, just given the fact that you don't have, a 20-person team or even a 10-person team, and find ways to get things done and partner with, make the most of what you have?
That's where I will say, so my family, my wife's family they're in the consumer packaged good industry as well. And I've worked for them the prior 10 years to starting this. And my father-in-law, my wife, my mother-in-law, they are the scrappiest, and working for them just really showed me, because when you come out of the Mars, the Ghirardelli, Coca-Colas of the world, you don't have to worry about, you have to worry about budgets, but, the resources, the tools, you have all the bullets and all the guns you need to go do the job. For me, it's like, okay, we had X amount of dollars to start this up, to get it off the ground, basically to build out our brand playbook. Everything was kind of bootstrapped, but we needed something that was going to be premium. It was going to be premium inside the product. How do we communicate that? And you didn't want to have something, not that there's anything wrong with the brown bag, but, this on the shelf next to this, one's gonna, definitely one's gonna stand out. So we had to do a lot of things, from how we created our brand playbook. We leveraged, so Giuliano, his best friend, has a brand agency in Brazil. And so he worked on the weekends with us. It also took us 9 months to come up with and to put that together to do it, versus hiring an agency and working through it and probably having it done in 6 weeks. But we worked through the whole process. We really chalked this up to continued education. So what we learned in the MBA program, so how could we apply it and take something from a white sheet of paper and actually get it onto the grocery shelf? But that was, there are so many ways that we stretch dollars. I didn't draw a salary for the first 2 years. So it's what you have to do. And I kind of knew that going into this, is how do you make it go? How do you, I drove down to California and buy 500 pounds of almonds and drive them back, because the freight, everything else would just add on to the cost. So there are just a lot of creative things you have to do to make it happen.
Yeah, you're testing and learning as you go, but you're also, using your own vehicle or your own kitchen. You talked about the development process and just playing around with some of the flavors, whereas you might not be at the point where as a startup where you have the finances to hire a co-man or somebody to test the flavors for you. So I've been really impressed with that journey. What other lessons have you learned just in the last year because of some of these hurdles that you've had to jump and in creative ways that you've had to go around things?
It's really I mean, for me, it's been prioritizing, so, the financials, all that I've been able to, I do have some help there now. Since I brought in, really it came down to who we took money from. And it wasn't just a check. I mean, they brought in a team of 5 or 6 people that helped me with procurement, accounting. They've taken several things off of my desk that allows me to basically do, production and selling it, and then I can really focus on driving and growing the business. And then also that we have a line of credit that we picked up a contract with Delta Airlines. And, as hard as it is to get those contracts, it's even harder to pivot on a dime and to run out and try to buy almonds, to supply 500,000 units for the next 6 months. So having a good partner, has really been key for us. And that was more, over the 3.5 years of being in business, that was a key part for me. Was I didn't want to just bring in dollars. It was more of having that right strategic partner. And L2M has been incredible. They're based out of Clackamas, Oregon. And I would say that's been pivotal for me to really kind of go to that next jump. And our revenue shows it. It's allowed me to really go out and sell. I mean, we were at Expo East this past week, and they're right there with me. They're in the booth. They did a lot of the background work to kind of make all that happen. All I had to do is go there, make sure the product was there, and go put on my selling shoes and do my thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great partnership. Is it the buying power more that they're helping you with, or are they actually helping you kind of plan for some of these next steps before you even arrive at the place where you would need to source as many almonds as you might need to fill a Delta contract?
It really is both. I mean, they've been helping me on the strategic side of it because it is easy to get sucked into the day-to-day. And I will say that a lot of these pitch events, so like the Boise Trailmix program, was the same thing. It was my one opportunity to not get caught into, I've got all these website sales. I've got to get these out the door. It's easy to get pulled into that, or I've got to get these whole food orders out the door. It's being able to step back, look at your business from a holistic perspective. And that's working with L2M. I'm probably down there in Portland, probably twice a month, and being able to kind of work through that. They've got a dedicated person that just works with me, and we kind of sat down. So that's part of what we were doing since they were there in Philadelphia at Expo. We had a couple of days where we really kind of stepped off to the side and kind of go through, where are we going over the next six months, a year, 2 years out, to really make sure we're focused in on that, and that they're aligning the right resources, money allocation. So it's a combination of both, definitely the dollar resources, but it's having that team behind you to know that, when you're leaning in, there's somebody that can grab you. As you lean in, there's somebody that's got your belt to make sure you don't go too far, or that you're leaning out there far enough to make it happen. So
yeah, that balance. And it sounds like they have really helped with that planning, and that has made a difference in the day-to-day of your operations. Is it more that you're able to do more with your own time, or is it more that it feels less chaotic, or what have been the changes that you've kind of felt on a day-to-day level?
So I have a person, so I was able to, at my co-packer, my family business, I was able to bring on a full-time person that just kind of keeps our batches and processing going, because before it was me doing that and trying to drive sales. So I could never imagine being out of the factory for 3 or 4 days like I was last week, where I've got a person dedicated. She's awesome. She's detail oriented. A lot of the things that I may not always be, so I've been able to surround myself, with a good investment partner, but then also a good staff, starting to build out a staff that allows me to kind of focus on the things that I'm good at, or that I do best. And honestly, it's what we need at this time. It's distribution, sales growth, it's being able to build that part of the business, but then being able to sit down and analyze your business to make sure that when we're doing promotions and investments, that you're getting the return on it. Because at the end of the day, if your margins aren't hitting and you're not driving sales, those things they start to show up, and that's what kind of stops your growth. So it allows me to do both.
Yeah, for sure. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned yourself going into this? I mean, I know you had a lot of background and experience, and then you had the MBA class on top of it, but was there one big aha that you've had throughout this whole journey that has just been kind of mind-blowing to you?
I mean, it's so much work. I mean, it really is. I was working full time in my family business and doing the MBA at night, or not on the weekends. So, I mean, I was easily, 50, 60 hours a week with the family business, and then another 20, 30 hours a week with the MBA. So I'm doing that times 10. But I mean, the difference is I'm smiling. I'm jumping up out of bed every morning. I'm my boss, so I can, there are things you have to get done every day, but it allows me to kind of build my schedule and build that. But it's, I'm doing it for the right reasons. I'm trying to make something that's different. I want to build out an organization that, we are trying to do better and make better products. So that's kind of the part that drives me. That's what gets me up every morning, is I have that opportunity. I have that luxury to kind of steer my path. I've worked for those companies where I've been in that silo, and this is my function. I didn't have to worry about, was I going to get paid next week, or or were we going to pay vendors, or what we had to do. So that's kind of been I've really learned a lot about that it's easy just to be the guy that goes out and hunts. That's awesome. And I had a lot of fun doing that. But being able to do the entire picture and kind of have the strategy, and at the end of the day, it falls on my shoulders. So, if it didn't work, it was me. If it worked, it's a small, but it was we.
Yes, with great risk, great responsibility,
Exactly.
but great reward as well. So I'm glad to see you smiling. What are you most excited about for this next year?
It's continuing to drive. I mean, I've had some incredible meetings, a lot of opportunities coming out of the Expo West. So just really seeing that opportunity that we're going to be more than just a Pacific Northwest brand. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but, we've already had really good buy-in in the Bay Area and basically down in LA market. But I had some incredible conversations with Wegmans and Kroger, and I've got additional airlines that are looking at our products, and we've done really well. I think I mentioned the gift basket business, but a lot of this, it's unique, it's different, the no mess on your hands. And we have very, like the black truffle, some very unique flavor profiles, and we start with real ingredients. And that's really what's been able to differentiate us. But that's also, it's the part that the work is getting ready for the real work starts getting ready for these trade shows and doing your work while you're there. But the real work is following up and making sure all these things happen. That's the part. That's what makes me smile.
That's great. That's amazing. If you could give one piece of advice to entrepreneurs that are watching, or really, let's focus it on entrepreneurs, any of the entrepreneurs that are watching, any of the startups that are watching, what would that one piece of advice be for someone that's just getting started?
I mean, I really have two. And I would say, and this is really what I tried to prove out in the first 2 years of Recipe 33 was, could I make my economic model work? Could we make money? Could we stand? But then are you differentiated in the market? Like, will people see that? And is it a big enough piece? Like, there are tons of seasoned nuts out there. I didn't invent seasoned nuts. Blue Diamond did that in the 50s. So it was, how do you take that and then be able to differentiate it, that there's no junk on your hands and it's clean ingredients? But if you didn't have the point of differentiation, it didn't really matter what the economics were, because there's going to be direct competition with you and you're going to have to work off of their cost structure. So that's where I really think that if you don't understand your costs, and if you're ever going to make money, and it's, you have to make money, you have to be a viable business, and then your product really has to be differentiated. So for me, it's starting to think about additional flavors, different products, expanding into a different product ranges, right now I'm the almond guy. I'm focused on almonds and how to do that. I've got a couple of flavors that we can expand into, but the advice is really understand why you're different and then what your cost structure is to make that happen.
Thank you so much. I have enjoyed this. I think it's so helpful for everyone to hear from someone who is doing this every day in the trenches with something that has scaled really quickly over a period of just a few years. So I appreciate you taking the time to share. And we'll make sure to link back to your pitch competition video from last year too for people that want to learn more. But again, thanks so much for taking the time and for being here.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it.